Hey everyone, and welcome to day 4, a recap in the Zachary Hughes case. Last day for the state. They rested after yesterday. It was half a day, and they ended with a bang. We have to admit that I haven't seen anything that connected him to the house up until then. But there's one sample on one finger, on her right hand it is, that has a DNA match that's 825 million to 1. That's very strong. That's a clear indication that he has left some DNA under one of her fingers at some point. 825 million to 1. That's roughly America's population twice and a quarter over or something like that. So that's very strong DNA. The defense didn't really try and get into any of how it could have been there or anything. So they might not have an answer for that. And I think that could kind of seal the deal for a lot of people with this piece of DNA evidence. It's on her finger. She must have touched him. But if we go back and take the entire case, and especially yesterday, we started out with the cross-examination of the lead detective. He had to admit the eyewitness was BS. The eyewitness didn't mention that she saw Zachary's face until 3 years later, when this case was about to start, and they went back to her to show her a photo, the photo of him on his bike with the mask on. And she said, yeah, I saw that guy. That's the guy I saw. Did you see his face? Yeah, he had a beard. We know from the trail cam he didn't have a beard. So that's BS. No note-taking. I don't know if the jury, kind of like us, catches stuff like that. But I find it very weird that you have this eyewitness. You never talked to her in 3 years. No police report previously mentioned she saw the face of him. But she clearly pointed him out in court. Then we have the logistics of the day. Because all of this is set up so he turns his phone off. Well, he doesn't turn it off. He doesn't touch his phone for 4 hours. At his mountain home, it's in the charger according to the Cellbrite, if I read it correctly. But it's left in the charger half an hour before he is at the spot where the nosy neighbor claims she saw him. There's only one problem with that. There's an hour drive from that address to where he was spotted. So half an hour before he's spotted, he's still at his home. How did he make that trip in half an hour when it takes an hour? The lead detective had to admit he didn't wear a hoodie. We know from the other lead detective that he claimed he was wearing the same hoodie he was seen wearing on the trail camera, that we clearly could see wasn't the same hoodie. So again, 2 police officers gives us different stories about what clothes he was wearing. We still don't know how he got into the house, other than someone walked in through the front door. They talked so much about all the evidence they were going to collect, all the things they were going to show us, all the bugle swabs we were going to see. And I think they did some good things on cross with the lead detective, because they tried to get into the escort stuff. They were not allowed to. We know this judge will gatekeep the hell out of her past. But they tried. And when the DNA people came up, and that was a long, boring trek, because there's been an argument if the DNA has been correctly processed, So we had to go through every step of the way. But they did all the tests, and they did all the bugle swabs, and they did all the right, correct procedures. They wore this clothes, they wore that clothes. And what did they find in all of these tests? Remember, this man allegedly went into the house. Oh, yeah, we had DME talk about the autopsy yesterday as well. Stabulated her in the chest, in the head, in the scalp, in the neck, she couldn't tell what he had used. It must be a sharp object, but what, she didn't know. No murder weapon have ever been found. Some of the stabs were deep, some of them weren't. Some of it was more like scratches. But especially the stabulations were on the right side. So either it's a left-handed person who did it, because that would be the natural. If I'm facing you and I would have to hit you on this side, I would use that hand. Or she was turned around when it happened. We didn't hear anything really about signs of struggle, anything. It was just there were stabulations and cuts to her. We were told 31 stabulations, but again, just like the rose petals strewn around the body, I saw a news article saying, kind of like when the audience throws roses at the scene for an adoring crowd to a pianist. There's no proof of any of that. Just as there's no proof that it was 31 stabulations. But those things, or those hits to the neck, did cut the arteries. If you cut, especially the big ones in the neck, you have a gusher. So I was thinking, okay, they talked about DNA samples on the handlebar, the seat, and the pedals. And I thought, oh, the pedals. He walked in the blood. He left blood, DNA, on the pedals of his bike. That's going to be the one, because the fingernails, I still, yeah, it's good evidence, but with all the other evidence missing, I just can't get there. What did the DNA folks tell us? That little piece of DNA on her right hand, nothing on her left hand. Nothing. On his handlebar, his DNA and potentially a female DNA. Couldn't tell. That's all the testing we got. Nothing on her left hand. His DNA, 825 million to 1 on her right hand. And a mixture of DNA on his handlebar. That is all the physical evidence we have in this case. We have the deceased with 30 stabs, scratches, whatever it is. Then you have one fingernail with DNA. One fingernail that one of the witnesses described as red acrylic fingernails, and the other one described as pink. I know I'm a man. Men see colors. We have black, white, red, green, potentially yellow on a good day. Blue could be. But two females would never differ and say red nails and pink nails. Yes, I am being very generalistic. Of course, there's men who can discern colors like that, and there's women who are just like us Neanderthals and just say, yeah, it's a green, red, whatever it is. But one said red, one said pink. That's again to me, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the Murdoch trial and the CERT team in that one. Maybe it's just because there's no evidence to show me how he went from sending her nude pictures to her boyfriend till suddenly just showing up unannounced at her house, being let in by her, stabulating her, and leaving, going about his business like normal. There's no way that happened. They don't find any bloody clothes. Again, A neck wound like that, it's a gusher. It's everywhere. They don't find a stabulator. Could have thrown it in a ditch. He could have thrown it in the sewers. Yes. But they don't even, they kind of said, well, he had a box of stabulators at his house. I have a room full of stabulators. That's called my kitchen. Doesn't prove anything because I don't use a stabulator when, I mean, of course, it could be anything. So, a very, very weird day. The only piece of evidence I would consider proving he could do it, could have been the one doing it, is the fingernail 825 million to 1, which is strong DNA hit. But the rest of it just doesn't add up. This trial has been about sending nude photos to harass a woman and then a little bit about the murder. They have no explanation on what happened in the house. When we ended it yesterday, we went back and rewatched the body cam from the officer who arrived first. I still get the tingly feelings when I think about the fiancé, the way he's at the scene. I rewatched some of it over on Alles Nur Geklaut, Harry's channel last night, and the more I see it, the more I'm sitting here thinking, it's just too perfect that one place you have any evidence is on her fingernail. We didn't hear anything about the coat bag. We didn't hear any fingerprints. We didn't hear anything other than just one fingernail had the thing that's going to make this guy hang. It's just too perfect. When nothing else shows you he wanted to do this. They don't have... I know that Court TV claims, well, their communications ramped up. There's no indication in that communication. There's no television camera that clocks him when he's driving twice the speed because he lives an hour away and goes to the scene in half an hour. He must have been going twice as fast as he's allowed to. No camera picks him up. The eyewitness lied. The sister lied, or the fiancé lied, because we always keep the door closed. The back door is always open. One of these two is not like the other. I don't know about you. I know it's strong DNA. I've heard about DNA being wrong before. With everything, because I don't just look at that pinpoint. I need something that could prove to me, well, he must have done it. I would vote not guilty now. I know his DNA is at the scene, but there's just not enough for me to go in and say, this guy needs to go away for life for this, because there's nothing else. There's one DNA trace. Could be I don't know. We'll have to see what the defense does Tuesday. Monday, President Day, where we remember the first and the greatest President, Benjamin Franklin, the man who invented electricity. And Tuesday we are back. Probably be a little delayed. Karen Reed has a motion hearing. I'm going to cover that. They were arguing yesterday afternoon if Mr. Hughes will testify. He will use the weekend to think about that. Any other witnesses, I have no knowledge if they're going to call other witnesses. But DNA is strong evidence. But in the complete picture, it's too perfect when nothing else is pointing to him.